الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. يقول الله تبارك وتعالى بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ثم أنزل عليكم من بعد الغم أمنة نعاسا يغشى طائفة منكم إلى آخر الآية. صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah, we welcome everyone back to our daily Tarawih reflections. Now, obviously, I'm sure it feels different because we don't really have Tarawih at the masjid. So, therefore, uh, you know, talking about Tarawih kind of uh, sounds a little different this year, because every time we usually talk about Tarawih, we are in the masjid. We picture masjid, we picture people, we picture leftover iftar and whatnot. But unfortunately, this year it's different. So hopefully, inshallah, we're still having Tarawih at home, and hopefully we are still conducting these prayers at home. And like I said before, that hopefully we're turning our homes into masjids and places of worship, inshallah. Having said that, we will continue, inshallah, from where we left off yesterday. We were talking in Surah Al Imran, and we namingly brought up the Battle of Uhud. Now, just to recap, the Battle of Uhud, what had happened was that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came, and remember, this time they were 700 in numbers, because 300 of the munafiqeen and some of the believers had gone back, because they had decided to come out of Medina and fight them in Uhud. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he reached the battlefield, he actually had set up some of the archers, 50 archers on the mountain, and he himself, with the Sahaba, they gone onto the battlefield, and he said that no matter what happens in the battlefield, you remain here, you stay put, you don't move from here. Now, then we know the story that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went and they started fighting, and they had the upper hand, and it looked like they were victorious and they were doing good. However, when the Muslims from the archers saw this, and they saw the kuffar fleeing, and they saw that it looked like a victory again, like the previous battle of Badr, then some of the archers, they decided to come down the mountain and the hill, and they wanted to go and join the Muslims. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam obviously had told them not to, and the responsible here, Abdullah bin Zubair radiallahu anhu, he also told those people that don't go. He told the archers, don't go. They said, well, what if the order from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was only regarding a certain period of time, while they were fighting, but looks like we're doing good, we're winning, so let's go and join them for the spoils of the war, and let's take our parts in booty. So when that was done, obviously the whole direction of the battle shifted, and now all of a sudden Khalid bin Walid had seen the Muslims, that there was a chance to attack the Muslims from this side where the archers were, because it was a weak point of entry. It was a point of entry for them. So he entered from there, and obviously the Sahaba that were there, they tried, the few that remained, they tried to control the situation and kind of fight them off, but they were unsuccessful. And as a result, the whole thing happened where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was injured. He lost a tooth. His tooth was shaheed, as well as his some Sahaba, they also died, and they were shaheed as well. Now, this whole thing happened. Why? Because these archers, they left. They left. They broke the commandment of Allah, of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, there's a few points to be noted from here, and this whole story of Uhud is mentioned in multiple ruku, meaning over a few pages of Surah Al Imran. It keeps coming back and keeps coming back, and there's a few points that that we should really take from here. One is that the Sahaba, they were also prone to mistake. they made mistakes, and uh, sometimes grave mistakes like this one, where they thought otherwise, and they in the process disobeyed a direct order from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as a result, what happened? The news of the shahada of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam spread, that he had been murdered, he had been killed. So this was a big mistake on the parts of the Sahaba. But again, in the following few ruku, there is a verse that comes, وَلِيَبْتَلِيَ اللَّهُ مَا فِي صُدُورِكُمْ وَلِيُمَحِّصَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصُّدُورِ. That when the Mufassirin, they write that here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying لِيَبْتَلِيَ اللَّهُ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had actually tested them. This was a test. This was a test for the Sahaba, that what were they going to do? Were they going to remain, or were they going to go and join, and were they going to go after the booty? Were they going to go after the spoils of the war? What were they going to do? And this was a test. But now there's another verse that comes, ثُمَّ أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُم مِّن بَعْدِ الْغَمِّ أَمَانَةً نُعَاسًا يَغْشَى طَائِفَةً مِّنكُم, that after this whole period where they felt like they're being they are done and they're destroyed, and even that news of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's death spread, and they were helpless, and they felt like what good is left in the world if the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gone. So for a moment they had dozed off, and they had kind of dozed off to sleep, and this was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when that had happened, this indicates that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, despite their mistakes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously He admonished them. He was very He took them to account. In these verses of Surah Al Imran, we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking them to account. But at the same time, it is a lesson for me and you as ummah, and this is the belief of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that we have no right to say anything bad about the Sahaba, no matter what they have done, as long as they were the Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they had died upon Iman. We as believers have no right to talk about them, of anything negative. We are not. We have no right to make them any less than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made them to be. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran, radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. So we are nobody to say anything negative about the Sahaba. This is a lesson that is learned from this battle of Uhud, from the mistakes they had made, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He approached them, He reproached them, but at the same time He corrected them, but at the same time He thought me and you as ummah that Sahabas, they were able to, they had made mistakes, yes, but at the same time it does not give me and you the chance and to point out fingers and to say this Sahabi is like this and that Sahabi is like this. And unfortunately there are some people among the ummah that they claim to be Muslims, but yet they slander Sahaba, they slander different Sahabis, and they talk bad about them, and they say who are we, what status do we have? Are we going to die on Iman? Are we going to is our prayers accepted? Are our prayers accepted? Are our fasting accepted? Are our any kind of good deeds that we do, are they accepted? We have no clue. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had accepted them. The people of Badr, you know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Rasulullah says about the people of Badr? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasul, both of them, they say the people of Badr, they can do whatever they want. They have been forgiven. مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِن ذَنْبِهِمْ وَتَأَخَّرَ. Whatever mistakes they have committed and they will commit, it's forgiven because of their taking place in the battle of Badr. So who are we to talk about them? So obviously, this is a lesson that is learned from the story of Uhud, the mistake that were made and the consequences that came down. But this was all meant to happen. This is the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it happened for a good reason. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also talks about the shaheed, the martyrs. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had talked about them also in Surah Baqarah. That وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا. That do not think that the people that are martyrs, that have become shaheed, do not think that they have passed away, they have died. No. بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. That, but verily they are alive with their Lord and they are being provided. Now, some Mufassirin say that these souls are being, from the body of the human being, the shaheed, the soul is taken out and it is put into some green birds that are flying around, in Jannah, and they will do so until the day of judgment, right? When the time is, and then they will come back, and then the day of judgment will take place, and so on, because everybody goes to the world of barzakh, the life of barzakh after we die. While our bodies are in the grave, the soul is in the life of barzakh, and it's like a waiting room kind of thing. So, but the shaheed, the people who are martyred, their souls are given to these birds, and these birds are flying around in Jannah. So they are not dead. They are being provided by their Lord. And they are happy with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is providing for them. ويستبشرون بالذين لم يلحقوا بهم من خلفهم ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون يستبشرون بنعمة من الله فضل وأن الله لا يضيع أجر المؤمنين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not let go to waste any effort that a believer puts forward. Any effort that we make, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not let it go to waste. Everything is accounted for. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he knows, he's aware of everything, that any effort that we do. Obviously, these people were lucky and they put forward their life. The ultimate sacrifice that a person can make is the sacrifice with their life. And in the battle of Uhud, we've seen that, we talked about that those Sahabi who presented their own body, to shield the Prophet ﷺ. So obviously, the ultimate sacrifice is to give their life. But me and you, obviously, we're not asked to give our lives. The little sacrifices that we can do, for example, to get up for Fajr, for example, just for instance, take Fajr for instance. It's very difficult. We're asked to make this sacrifice. My good friend Mona Shuaib from Toronto, he always says that we want to fight the battle of Badr, but we can't even fight the battle of Fajr. That we want to fight, we want to go and we fight in this battle, but we can't even take that, the blanket and off of us when we're sleeping. It's like so heavy. We might be working out in the gym and might be very strong, but we can't even take off this blanket. So these are the small things that as Muslims we're asked to do when it comes, and we're not asked to do big things. Alhamdulillah, small things will take us very far. Then moving forward, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after having spoken about Uhud, we spoke about Badr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the hypocrites as well. Now, we spoke about hypocrite before. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions the people who misinterpret the verses of the Quran. They will, it's obviously not something that we're supposed to do. Now, we should not, in another place it came that, those people who use the Quran and they interpret the Quran for their own benefit. This is another thing we should watch out for. That, what are we using the Quran for? Quran is the word of Allah, right? Quran is not for me and you to win arguments. That's not the purpose of Quran. Quran is to lead us the way in life, to be successful in life. That's what Quran is supposed to do. But we're not supposed to use the Quran and every single time there's I happen to know a few verses and boom, I throw a verse at you and I try to prove my point and win debates. Subhanallah. And then in the process, what happens? Sometimes we misinterpret. Sometimes we say things that are not according to. That's not the meaning of the verse, or that is not the interpretation of the verse. So this is another thing that has to be taken into consideration. Also, to take false oath. This is also mentioned here. To take false oath is also discussed. That when you take oath, make sure that you don't lie in your oath. We don't lie. We don't cheat in our oath. Rather, we have to be aware. We have to be cognizant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and we cannot be lying. One of the signs of hypocrite. We've discussed this before. That there are three, right? إذا حدث كذب. That when he speaks, he lies. وإذا أتمنى خان. And when he is entrusted with something, he breaks his he breaks his trust. And وَإِذَا وَعْدَ أَخْلَفَ, when he makes promises, he breaks his promises. These are the signs of hypocrites. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from being among the hypocrites. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about unlawful earning, and this is another thing that we have to really worry about, because let's face it, lawful earning seems harder at times than the unlawful earning. Unlawful earning seems like quick money, quick quick fame, quick gain. That's what happens with unlawful earning. It's shortcut. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is encouraging this the believers, the human being, to earn lawfully, to earn right, the right way, the proper way. It's very easy to go and take the back door and take the side streets and so on and so forth, the shortcuts, and some people are very expert at it. But subhanallah, there will be never any barakah in that. There will be never any pleasure in that. A person that earns money through means that is not permissible, they can never enjoy that money. They will never have pleasure in their life with that money. That's impossible. It will be, if it is, it's momentarily, but it will be a very gloomy and very dark life that they will have following that, because you can never ever go against the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be happy and expect to be happy. It's impossible. That, and also now we finish Surah Al Imran and we start Surah Nisa. Now Surah An-Nisa, it talks right in the beginning, it talks about men is allowed to have multiple wives. Now this is a sensitive discussion. How do we go about it? Okay, let's look at a few logical things, and hopefully inshallah we can first of all, Islam doesn't just allow men to go and marry for women just like that, just out of their whim and desire. No, it is there, it is permissible, it is allowed, but a person has to meet the requirement. The requirements are that, first of all, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that if you cannot do justice among all of them, if it's 2 or 3 or 4, you have to treat them equally. You have to be kind and nice to all of them. You have to really take care of them, and if you are able to do that, there is this option for you. But if you can't, then obviously this is not for you, and instead of gaining nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or fulfilling a sunnah, a person ends up committing sins and haram, because now you are taking the rights of others. You are not fulfilling the rights of your wife. You are not fulfilling the rights of your children in that family. You are not fulfilling anything. So it becomes a problem. It becomes a cause for a person's destruction rather than making it something nice and good. Now look at the positive side of it. If you look at the population, you see, first of all, we have to understand something. It is not Islam that brought forward this. Islam came and put a limit on how many people, how many wife a man can have. Before Islam, the practice was that there was unlimited. A person can get married to whatever amount of women they want, and they can have relationship with them and no problem. Islam came and it limited it to 4. Okay, and so this was a practice that, and up until today, if you look, there are many countries, many even south of the border, there are states where it is permitted and it is allowed, and this practice is still polygamy. Polygyny is a practice that happens all around the world. So this is not something specific to Islam. Islam came to regulate it. Islam came to give it meaning, give it importance, and Islam came to kind of make us understand how to go about it. Now, one of the things that we have to look at the world population, and look at the population of men and look at the population of women. If you look at that, you'll see that there's almost like 10 women to 1 man. That's kind of the population in the world right now. So if that is the case, then if each man takes 1 woman, one female, each male has 1 female partner, then there's about 9 others that are left without a husband, without a family. Now, obviously, uh, there's a few things to consider here. One is that many of the women that are divorced, that are widowed, at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this was not an issue. If you were divorcee, if you were widow, you would pass your iddah and your period. We spoke about that in the past few sessions. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about iddah and how long a person has to wait, the waiting period after getting divorced or losing their husband and so on and so forth. Their proposals would come and they would get remarried, and nothing was wrong about that, and it was not looked down by the society or anything like that. But today, if a divorcee, whether that's a divorced man, and mostly the women face it, is that whenever they're divorced and something happens, then to get back in the game and to get back married, it becomes a challenge for them. It becomes a problem for them. And what ends up happening is that sometimes the families are the one that don't let them move forward. Sometimes it is the culture that that the society that they live in, they don't let them move on. So sometimes just people don't look at, everybody wants to get married to somebody that is getting married for the first time. They don't want to be married to somebody who's already been married, na'udhu billah. So some people have that notion, some people have that kind of mindset where they feel that somebody who's already been married, how can I marry them? These are things that does not exist in Islam. Rather, Islam encourages to help and to take care of others, right? To take care of orphans, to take care of the poor and needy, to take care of everybody else. That's what Islam is about. So if a person wants to take, these are the logical explanations that I'm giving. If a person wants to take more than one, they can easily help out another family. They can easily be, if they have obviously, if they have that the means, of course, then they can be a support for a few other families that nobody might have taken care of them. So these are things to consider. See, if every man is taking only one woman, then what will happen is that the other women that are left, where do they go? And what do they do? So eventually they will end up doing a few things in the society that we live in. Either they will be attracted to the same gender, so they will become like the people of Qawmi Lut, the people of Lut, that they were interested in the same gender, so man for man, woman for woman. This is something very common in the Muslim community that we see today, because to fulfill one's desire, it's a need that is given to us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we have to fulfill it. So if we can fulfill it in the right way, then a person will be interested, and shaitan is there, and that's what he wants. He wants us to take us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so he will make that person be interested in the same gender, or the person will go and sell their body. They'll they would wanna make an earning, and they have no other means, so they will go and they will sell their body in return for earning. Or they will commit suicide. How many people commit suicide because they can't find a proper match, and or they can't get married, or because their society rejects them, or because the family rejected them, or because she was married before, or she was divorced before, or whatever. People look down upon them, so people commit suicide. So these are things that we have to really consider. Islam is a pragmatic religion. Islam is a very it is the religion given to us by the creator of this world, this universe. So he would know what he's telling us to do, right? Obviously, like I said, it has restrictions. It has its ups and downs. If you can't handle it, if you can't take care of it, there's a test for the men as much as the women. The women, they have to sacrifice. They have to say that they have to let go of their own desires over the desire of Allah. They have to accept that this is the order of Allah. This is what Allah wants me to. This is my test in this world. This world is not my paradise. And if I'm able to help out my fellow Muslim sister, then why not? If me sacrificing a little bit is giving the happiness, one of the best thing that a person can do is to bring happiness to your fellow Muslim, a fellow human being. So if me sacrificing my husband to another woman is making another person happy, another family happy, then that should be taken into consideration. This is a test for the woman as well, a very big test. And it's we read about the lives of the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It existed among them as well. There was heated up. There were times where they couldn't take it, and it was difficult, and it was there was incidents that we read about them that even them they were affected by this. This is natural, but however the ultimate thing is that we give preference to the orders of Allah over our own desires. That's what this world is about, isn't it? That we give preference to Allah and His Prophet, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained for us. We give preference to that over our desires and our whims. That's what Islam is about. That's what this life is about. We can't have everything in this life. So there's test for the sisters in this, that they have to sacrifice their husband. Yes, but Islam says, okay, you have to take care. So if you give one night there, one night there, and there's way, you have to give from Maghrib to this, there's like a whole system behind it. You have to be careful. And if you don't, Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayh, he used to be so cautious that he would not fulfill the rights of his wives, that he would not take, if he would buy a fruit, he would not take one fruit here and one fruit there. Rather, he would cut the fruit in half. Because what if one fruit was sweet and one fruit was sour? So what if one wife on the Day of Judgment says, Ya Allah, he gave me the sour fruit and she got the sweet one. So he would cut the fruits in half and give one half here, one half here, one half here, one half there, so that in case one of them was sweet and sour, both of them got the same. This is how careful. So it's for the men that are getting happy and thinking, oh yes, I can get, yeah, you could, but there's a lot at stake. Sometimes it destroys family as well, because we're not able to sustain it, we're not able to take care of it, we're not doing how it's supposed to be done. So what will happen? A person will lose their family. Is it worth it? So all these things has to be taken into consideration by a person who's thinking these things. Now, there's the positive for everything, there's the negative, but as long as we do it if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the goal, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's happiness is what we're aiming for, then everything will be fine, inshallah. But if it is something else, if we have some side intention, then it might be problematic. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq and ability to understand our deen properly and practice it, and also preach it to others. And we'll leave it at that for today, inshallah, and we'll continue from here tomorrow. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.